Okay, it is 12. We still have some people coming in, but I'm going to get started here in the interest of time. So welcome. We had a huge response to this. So it's really inspiring that so many people, want to educate themselves and tackle this problem head on. So just a little bit of housekeeping here. Like I mentioned, please mute your phone or computer. It can be very distracting for the speaker. Submit all questions in the Q&A box, and I'll turf those to John at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you can email me. My email's right there. And I am Tara, by the way. So I'm the program coordinator for Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response. It's a HRSA grant program managed by Community for Alcohol and Drug for Youth. This is our mission statement. So I moved my little box here. Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response Program aims to ensure comprehensive, coordinated, and easily accessible prevention, treatment, and recovery services for those impacted by opioid use disorders in the Central New Hampshire region. Obviously, with this topic, we're expanding a little, but there's a lot of risk multipliers that go in with opioids and other emerging substances. And our vision for the future is that we will build a community to prevent, treat, and promote recovery from opioid use disorders. The program will create a local system that is free of barriers, easily accessible, and fully integrated at every point of contact to reduce opioid misuse and promote healthy lifestyles and promising futures. Our featured speaker today is DEA Special Agent Jon DeLena. John is a member of the Department of Justice Senior Executive Service and currently serves as the Associate Special Agent in charge of the DEA's New England Field Division. In 2019, Special Agent DeLena was recognized in New Hampshire as the Community Leader of the Year. He has received numerous awards and commendations and established himself as a fully engaged and highly motivated leader within the communities he serves. A native Bostonian, DeLena grew up in Revere, Massachusetts. He was in his 28th year of law enforcement and holds a Master's of Science degree in Executive Leadership at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. Oh, actually, stop sharing right there because we don't want the thank you screen yet. And I'm going to turn it over to John.
Tara, I'm going to share my screen right now, if that's okay. Yeah. And see if we can get it going.
All set.
Okay. Me too. Yeah, me too. This is so annoying. People keep calling in, and every time we do.
Everyone mute, please.
Zoom. Yeah.
We good?
Yeah, Tara? I think so. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I am a big fan of Katie and all the work that's being done up there. I'm astonished by a response like this, by how many people are sort of interested in hearing what's going on. And I want to try to maximize the time, and I put together some slides using really what I think is the most relevant and timely information that I have. And I'm just going to sort of lay out to you what the threats are that we're seeing right now. I just want to start this because there are so many people on there. It's okay, Tara. I've been ignoring noise my whole life. I have 3 kids. I don't know what backgrounds everybody's coming from. I know we have 220 some odd people that are joining us here today. And what I'm about to say might be disturbing to some, but all I do is tell you the truth about what I see and what I know. So I just want to sort of preface it with that warning. I believe that, COVID notwithstanding and all that's gone on in our country, I believe that years from now, we will look back and our children will be studying this point in our country's history, trying to figure out how 88,000 Americans were dying of a drug overdose. And yet somehow we still weren't able to really wrap our arms around this thing truly. I do believe that. I believe that if you look back at just over these last few years, the death toll of Americans is staggering. But I'm proud of a group like this that's willing to get on and at least try to learn a little bit about it. The bottom line is that now more than ever, and especially because of the vulnerabilities created by COVID and this pandemic, there is a complete massive tidal wave of both fentanyl and methamphetamine that's flooding into the United States and ending up in all of our communities right now, in all of our neighborhoods. It's the most that we've ever seen. This is happening while drug overdoses, like I said, the death toll in America, 88,000, according to the CDC, it's the most that we've ever had. But you have to understand that these drug trafficking organizations, and I'm going to talk a lot about them today, they're driven by nothing but greed. And what they do better than any business operation that we've ever seen is that they pounce on vulnerabilities. And they know that over this last year, we've really been spread thin. They don't have to play by the rules that we all have to play by. And because of that, they've taken advantage and they've gotten these drugs into our country unlike ever before. And if you look at what has been published now, and it's available to all of you if you go to our website, the DEA's 2020 National Drug Threat Assessment, you'll understand what these Mexican cartels are capable of doing and how they've partnered now with criminal entities in China to supply them with the chemicals they need to continue to produce these drugs in massive amounts. The real reason why we're here today is to talk about this sudden flow of crystal methamphetamine into New Hampshire and, like I said, into all of our neighborhoods. It's not coming, it's here. It's here right now. Look no further than the latest border seizures. And I've done a similar presentation over the last 3 weeks. I've done this probably half a dozen times, and I've had to change that slide every time. This is one of the most recent ones, and it's probably already outdated. You're talking about 91,000 pounds of meth that was seized along the border. 91,000 pounds seized along the border. You know, some estimates would say 10 times that amount gets through. That's a massive amount of methamphetamine. What does it mean for first responders? And that's something that New Hampshire has been grappling with. And just last week alone, at the direction of Governor Sununu, we partnered, DEA partnered with Commissioner Quinn's office, the New Hampshire State Police, and all of our police partners. And last week, they did a training for over 700 first responders to talk about the increased level of violence that's associated with methamphetamine use. And this is something that's got me very alarmed. You know, I think that we've done such an incredible job in the state of New Hampshire with how we're responding to drug overdose calls for service, whether you're a police, fire, or ambulance driver. The level of care that is provided when those first responders arrive on scene is incredible. I think that's why in New Hampshire, in my opinion, our drug overdose deaths have sort of leveled off. It's because of the availability and the great work of all of the frontline workers to get Narcan into people and save their lives. What I'm worried about is those same first responders now responding to calls for service where somebody is having a methamphetamine episode, which is exponentially different than somebody suffering an episode from an opioid like fentanyl. The level of violence that goes along with it is incredible. No matter where you look, you're going to see this. I have conversations weekly, monthly with the medical examiner's office in New Hampshire. What we're seeing is an incredible rise in methamphetamine being mixed with fentanyl in the toxicology of people suffering an overdose death in our state. We've never had that before in New Hampshire, and we're seeing that mixture come together. We've always had people who created their own methamphetamine in New Hampshire. Meth labs. This is a picture from one on Easter Sunday that the special agent in the middle was out with all of his equipment because normally what we find is a 2-liter bottle or a bottle like the one you see on the screen there, where people on their own find a way to create methamphetamine. That way of doing it is extremely, extremely dangerous. Those bottles are flammable and highly explosive. More often than not, the way we find them is because somebody has started a fire or blew up their house, and first responders get there and start seeing all of this evidence, and we end up bringing in a lab team so we can safely dispose of the items that we find. But when they're doing that, they're only be able to produce a very small yield, a very small amount, 5 or 10 grams in an hour or so, while still deadly. And I'm not trying to downplay this. It's essentially amateur hour when you think about trying to compete with a Mexican cartel who's mass producing this stuff. So what you see coming out of a place like Mexico, frozen here, is that they truly are the professionals. They will set up laboratories, again, using chemicals that they get directly from China. And whether it's an indoor lab or an outdoor lab, which I'm about to show you, they have the best people and they can produce a yield in massive, massive quantities. Over a year ago, I had the opportunity to bring some police executives, some police leaders from throughout New England, including New Hampshire, on a trip to Mexico to bring them down to meet with DEA at the American Embassy in Mexico City to learn a little bit about, where these drugs are being born from and what their path is to get up into our communities like New Hampshire. While we were in Mexico City, DEA, along with the Mexican military, raided a jungle laboratory that was producing methamphetamine. And they then flew us on a Mexican military aircraft into Sinaloa, which is the home of famous drug trafficker, kingpin Chapo Guzman. You've probably seen the news or watched the TV shows about him. This is his territory. So under heavy military guard, they brought us all into this jungle, what they call a triple canopy jungle. Essentially, you can't see it from above. And what we found when we finally made our way in there was absolutely incredible. And I shot a little bit of video to show you just the size and the enormity of a lab like this. These are 55-gallon drums that were filled with liquid forms of crystal methamphetamine. You see the massive amounts of equipment that are in there. Now, it took us hours to get in there. But they're able to get all of that equipment in there because with the amount of money they have and the ingenuity, they can get whatever they want. So they set up a laboratory like this in the middle of the jungle. But what you need to understand is with a laboratory like that, that one single lab was capable and was producing 7 tons of crystal methamphetamine every 3 days. So if you go back and you consider what I already showed you that we had happening here in New Hampshire, which was a very small lab producing maybe 5 grams in an hour. This is just one lab run by the Sinaloa cartel that was producing, as I said, 7 tons every 3 days. See, I'm having a little issue here. Advancing this. Here we go. This is a picture of what that crystal methamphetamine that we're finding right now in New Hampshire looks like. For comparison, the picture on your left and on your bottom right are crystal methamphetamine. And the one on the top right is actually powder form of regular meth that we were previously seizing here in New Hampshire. So the crystal form is what we're dealing with. It looks like shards of glass. It's referred to on the streets as glass or ice. The difference is our laboratory is now saying that the stuff that we're seizing today in New Hampshire is testing between 99 and 100% pure. We've never had anything like that in our history. It's coming in so strong and so pure, and the effects we're seeing play out, all over New Hampshire right now. They have several methods to get the drugs into New Hampshire and how they're selling them. Everything that we're seeing right now is coming across, what we know as the southwest border and up directly either into New Hampshire or first into Massachusetts, then eventually into New Hampshire. Some of you may ask, are people going on the internet? Are they going on the dark web? And are they ordering stuff directly from China? The answer is that yes, that's happening. But what we see and what I know from the investigations here throughout New England, and particularly in New Hampshire, is for the most part, we don't have that problem. There are cases where people are doing it, but it dwarfs in comparison to the amount of drugs that are being driven up into our area. People who are buying these drugs would much rather go to a dealer and hand them cash and leave with product than they would going on the internet and possibly having to use Bitcoin, going into an unknown account and then waiting for a package to come in the mail. So as these drugs leave Mexico, produced by the cartels and into the southwest border, they make their way up here. This is just a snapshot of, truly the problem that we're seeing is that the cartels have now figured out that we've done a pretty good job as a nation with clamping down on the over-prescribing practices that had been sort of, a real problem in our country, and the illicit diversion of legal pharmaceuticals. Like we had a lot of pharmacy robberies. We had a lot of pharmacy gone rogue that were stealing pills. We don't see the volume of that we had seen for years and years and years. The cartels recognize that, and what they realized is they can just produce the pills themselves. So these are illicitly manufactured pills. They're fake. They're designed to look exactly like something that you would get from a pharmacy, but they're made with nothing but methamphetamine or fentanyl. So I'm going to show you some examples from seizures that we've done here recently. And again, this is a big problem because in my opinion, if the cartels in Mexico, and this is very important to me, and this is truly the thing that I am most passionate about right now, if the cartels in Mexico have made a business decision to manufacture Adderall pills and fill them with nothing but crystal methamphetamine, they have made a business decision to target our children. We know, everybody on this call should know, that it's mostly children, middle school, high school, and college, that are widely using Adderall because they're being prescribed Adderall, or abusing Adderall because a friend of theirs is passing one off or selling them to them. The youth of America is under the impression somehow that Adderall, if you take it and it's not prescribed to you for a legitimate medical reason by a doctor and filled at a pharmacy, young people think somehow it'll make you smarter or faster or better at sports or more focused. Again, if it's not prescribed to you. The cartels are mass producing those pills, and we're finding them all over New Hampshire today. Now, I did an ad hoc press conference a few weeks ago on WMUR. You may have seen it. If not, you can find it on their website or on YouTube. And I showed those pills, and I showed a test that we did where the pills came back as methamphetamine. Somebody had actually asked after the fact if somehow this was being sensationalized. I can assure you that I've been doing this job for 30 years, and 25 of it has been with the DEA. I've never been more concerned, even with the height of the fentanyl epidemic that we had here. I've never been more concerned than I am about these Adderall pills. They're turning up everywhere, and children are being targeted. But these same children have been targeted for a while. This goes back to a presentation I did in 2019 where 3 children from the same high school died of a pill overdose, and the pills were made with nothing but fentanyl. Here's a look at some of the recent seizures that we've done. Again, this is the latest threat. The pills on your left are Adderall, made with nothing but crystal methamphetamine, and the pills on your right are Xanax, made with nothing but fentanyl. What we're finding in New Hampshire, what we're finding in your communities right now, our dealers are selling both. They're telling their consumers to take an Adderall, and if you're having trouble falling asleep later, take one of their Xanax. So they're actually getting 2 for 1, and they're marketing it to these young people especially, and we're finding them all over New Hampshire. Now, another point that I'll make is after we did the initial press conference, we got a lot of calls from a lot of police departments. And what we do know is that a lot of pills have been seized and written up as being Adderall, and they're sitting in the lab right now waiting for analysis. The truth of the matter is that most labs, including the DEA lab, don't often even get to test the drugs until a case is coming up for trial. So they may sit for a while. We're now going back at the DEA lab, and we're trying to test all the pills that went in as being Adderall so we can get a better grip of it. Locally in New England, some of these criminal organizations have decided they want to try it themselves. This is from a very recent local seizure where a local organization was using methamphetamine to make Adderall, and those are some of the pictures of it there, the orange pills. The buckets on your lower right are actually buckets of methamphetamine and the dye that they use to go into a pill press, and the ones on your top there were Percocets. More pictures of a recent seizure here in New England, very close to home, of enormous amounts of these Adderall pills. We're finding them popping up everywhere. And if you don't know what an Adderall looks like, you can just Google it, and you'll see the images. The picture on your top right are some of the pill presses that were used locally to make those Adderall. It's illegal for somebody to have a pill press like that if it's not registered with the DEA, but it's easy enough for people to get their hands on them in order to make those pills. These are some of the fentanyl pills recently seized. They're designed to mimic, the brand name is Mellencroft, a 30 milligram oxy. They're called on the streets Mexican oxy or dirty 30s. These have been popping up in New Hampshire for the last couple of years, but we're at sort of an all-time high with what we're finding right now. This one's a little bit dated, but I wanted to share with you now that the case has been adjudicated. We seized 400,000 fake Xanax coming across the Vermont border from Canada on a very cold, snowy night. Somebody was pulling a sled across the border, entering the country illegally, pulling a sled that contained 400,000 of these fake Xanax that, subsequently would end up in not only in Vermont, but in all of our communities. This is a pill press from a very recent case where they were making those 30 milligram pills with fentanyl. You can see how dirty and unkept the pill presses are. This isn't a pharmaceutical company. They don't have the oversight that goes along with what a legitimate pharmaceutical company would be, which makes it even more dangerous. Not only do other elements end up in these pills, but they could never control. The drug trafficking organizations can never control the amount, the deadly amount of that toxic substance. In this case, for this, it's fentanyl. In the case of the Adderall, it's methamphetamine. They have no control over how much actually ends up in each pill. And that's what makes all of this so concerning and so deadly. When we're seizing these pills locally, a law enforcement officer, a DEA agent, an experienced DEA agent, you can't tell by looking at them whether they're real or fake. You can't. It isn't until we get them to the lab or we conduct some kind of a test that we're able to tell. They have figured out how to properly score them, meaning put the markings and also the color. And if you look at this picture here, going back to it on the right, those two images, that's how they're pressing the pills and scoring them. They're able to obtain the markings of that company, Mallinckrodt, which is a pharmaceutical company, and they're able to make the pills look real. And that's the challenge that we're up against. Again, Xanax comes in different forms and varieties. These are some of the recent seizures of these, what they call Xanny bars or bars. They're being seized, and we're finding them to be made with nothing but fentanyl. Every effort imaginable is being made to get these drugs up into our area right now. This was a recent case out of New York where 2.5 tons of methamphetamine was seized, but not only was it just that methamphetamine, but again, these completed pills, which are made with nothing but fentanyl. In this case, 100,000 of them were coming across the border. I'm sorry, on this vessel that was coming and was seized. There's a DEA office in Arizona that 3 years ago had seized none of those pills. And then they jumped to like 1.7 million pills seized. And this year, I'm being told they're up around 7 million pills seized. So it's an incredible volume that's coming across in these completed pill forms. Again, manufactured with nothing but fentanyl and or, in the case of the Adderall pills, methamphetamine. Another image of a local pill press that we seized. Dirty, broken, they don't care. All they care about is making pills and getting them on the street as fast as they can. I spoke to the DEA lab director where we send our drugs to be analyzed. And the most recent stat he could give me is that at least 26% of the pills that are going into our lab contain a lethal dose. So they all contain, in this case, fentanyl, but a lethal dose of fentanyl was found 1 out of every 4 pills. That's what we're up against. And when I say it's a fluid situation, they're putting fentanyl in everything that they can. This was a seizure from, I guess, last week or maybe the week before now, where they're finding ecstasy pills now being laced with fentanyl as well. As if ecstasy wasn't dangerous enough, and we have had issues in New England with ecstasy. The core body temperature skyrockets, and there have been overdose deaths related to it. But now you see them coming in and they're being mixed as well with fentanyl. I told you on Easter Sunday we were out. This is just another view of what they found out there. You know, those are the ingredients that go into making it locally. Imagine, you know, that camp fuel, the drain cleaner, and some other items taken out of batteries, highly explosive, but that's what we found out there on Easter Sunday. High levels of violence because there's a lot of money associated with these drugs. This was another recent seizure here in New England of those Adderall pills and some of the weapons that were seized along with it. My old stomping grounds, I spent a majority of my career down in Miami for DEA. I can assure you we never, ever, in all the time that I was down there with all the big cases that we were doing in what we called the cocaine cowboy days, we never seized 1,100 pounds of methamphetamine in Miami, Florida. And this was seized 2 weeks ago down there. So they're flooding the market and just trying to get it anywhere they can. I have you here, so I want to talk a little bit about fentanyl and what we see here locally, and I'm going to rip through these because I want to leave some time for questions. I think you've all seen this image. It's one that's really been widely distributed, and that really is what a deadly or lethal dose of fentanyl can look like. It's such a small amount. When we go into the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts, which is for us, for all of us that live here in New Hampshire, the source, this is where our citizens are getting fentanyl. This is what it looks like. They get kilograms of fentanyl sent up from Mexico, and then they mix it. They mix it in blenders. and then they siphon it out and they package it for sale. If I can explain to you how it's dangerous and what it means, it would be something like this. On that image that you're looking at, the red substance, the active substance, would be, say, the fentanyl. The green substance would be what they cut it with, because they want to try to make as much of the product as they can. When they mix it up in those blenders, it mixes, but it doesn't blend together. And then when they portion it out, like you see on the bottom, they never really know, and they never can know. And the smartest scientists in the world, much smarter than I'll ever be, but I'm smart enough to listen to them, have told me, until they can find a way to do this in a clean environment and liquefy it and then bring it back to a solid, which that's not going to happen down in Lawrence, Massachusetts. This is the best that we can hope for. So if you happen to get the piece that has more fentanyl and it's a lethal dose, you're going to overdose, and hopefully somebody, God willing, will be there to save you. You may get one that contains little or none. That's just, the luck of what you're going to buy. And I took the opportunity, using a high-level budget that they give me, and I asked some of the folks that work for me to help me produce a quick actual video so you could see what it looks like when they mix this stuff up. This is from equipment that was seized from a lab. The substances are fake, but we wanted to show you. I used 2 different colors so you could see sort of what it looks like. If we portion out some of the active ingredient with some of the cut, and they put it into that blender dry, which is what they do, and they mix it up. No matter how many times we portion it out, we're gonna get a different response every single time. If you look at that one where you see the brown, that if you get that piece, you're in trouble. That one's mixed up a little bit better. And the third is going to be different than the first 2. And we could sit here and do this for 2 hours, and I could show you 10,000 examples of it. And the truth is that every time we do it, it's going to mix up differently, because there really isn't a better way for them to sort of perfect it. This is why they do it. That's $1 million that we seized out of a house in Lawrence recently on a case. They make such an enormous amount of money that it doesn't matter to them how many Americans die of a drug overdose, as long as they continue to make money, as long as they continue to addict the next generation. Sadly, they're always going to do it. And that's really the driving force behind it, is money, because at the end of the day, that's all they care about. You all are the prevention experts. I'm not. But what I can tell you in my experiences, especially here in New Hampshire, is that we spend way too much time talking to our kids about what those people battling addictions' worst days look like, and not enough time talking about their first days. The best results that I've had is when we've been able to work with people who are at the other end of their addiction, and they come in and they talk to young people about what their path looked like when they started and how it all started. And I'm hoping that you can all help me with that, and we can continue to get that message out there. On April 24th, we're having another sponsored DEA Drug Take Back Day. I don't think in the 20 takebacks prior to this, we've ever had a more critical day. I think when you factor in what's happened over the last year, when you factor in people have been locked away, and you look at the increased level of overdoses, along with suicide, with all the mental health issues that have gone along with people being locked away, I think it's more important than ever that we get those unwanted, unused, expired medications out of people's homes, and we dispose of it safely. We will have the same amount. We'll have over 100 locations throughout the state of New Hampshire. You see, this is nationally DEA collected close to 500 tons in 2020. It's an unbelievable amount that we're able to take in. It's going to be a little different this year because of the COVID protocols, but we're asking all of you to help us spread the word, because in my opinion, somebody that's been doing this for a long time, there isn't a more important take back than the one that we're about to do. I think, we can do a lot of good by getting this stuff safely out of people's homes. The question I got on the last presentation that I did, and I'm going to share this flyer that the amazing people at the Raymond Coalition for Youth made up. Somebody asked the question of me, is what should, what comes next for the prevention organizations after hearing something like this? And I'll tell you that the great people at Raymond made up this flyer because that's really the job of the prevention people. I want to work with everybody and I want to help get that message out there. And I really do, I really am committed to connecting with as many people as I can. But what we need is the great prevention organizations that we have in New Hampshire. And I truly believe that they're the best in the nation. And I get to talk to DEA from around the country. And I mean that. I believe that the people that are involved with these organizations are far superior than what we have in so many other parts of the country. So I think what comes next, after hearing this message today, is that hopefully all of you are able to work with us and come up with some ideas on how we can get this critical message out there. We have now started a new campaign, Operation Engage, that it sort of builds off of the lessons we learned from DEA 360. If you know Brian O'Keefe, he's a retired captain from the Manchester Police Department who's really heavily involved with this, and he's joining us and has joined us, and he's going to lead this effort as my community outreach specialist. So I'm excited to have Brian on the team. If you want to learn anything about what we do on a day-to-day basis, I encourage you to please follow us on Twitter. That's our Twitter, at DEA New England. We really do put timely information up there, which I think would be helpful to all of you. If you want to learn about Operation Engage and what we have planned here for New Hampshire, or if you have some information you want to share with us that we can put up on our website, you can contact us. You can go on dea.gov and look for the New England Field Division, and you'll see a setup there for Operation Engage, and that's the hashtag that we use. But I would really encourage all of you to check out our Twitter and check out our website. And again, if you have helpful information that you want us to post, if you're doing something, if Katie's doing something and you want us to get it up there, send it to me and I'll make sure that we put it up on our Twitter. So I ran through a lot as quickly as I can, but I really believe that where these presentations are most helpful, and where you get your money's worth out of me, even though I do it for free, that was a joke, is in the questions. And I hope that I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I hope that Tara, you can help me and we can take whatever questions we have.
Yeah, so we've had actually a lot of good discussion going on in the chat as well.
Cool.
My computer's doing something odd there. So if people just want to read through that as well. But let me try to pull out some of the actual questions out of it. I do apologize about the noise at the beginning. We figured it out.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get through the Okay, is there any link between Adderall and meth like there is with opioids and heroin? Meaning, is it a sort of gateway drug for methamphetamine?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. I think that the cartels have realized that it's the closest thing that will bridge that gap for them. And while they're pounding our streets with crystal methamphetamine, they've come up with this new idea of the pills, hopeful that people will, create an addiction and then look for the next best thing when those pills are unavailable to them or become too expensive. And somebody else asked me on a previous discussion, what would the effects be, if they're taking that pill? And one of them is, if they are somebody that is used to using methamphetamine and they take that pill, the pill takes some time to take effect in the body. And we've heard some instances where people have taken a pill, they expect that instant gratification that they feel if they're using crystal meth. They don't feel that right away, so they're taking another pill or two, and then all of a sudden they're having a much more dangerous reaction.
Sure. Do they think that they're actually getting Adderall, or do they know they're getting meth or fentanyl?
Great question. Once again, I would say that unlike when fentanyl hit the market and people weren't sure that they were getting fentanyl, I think right now, from the investigations that we're doing, the interviews that we're doing, and even from our local law enforcement partners who didn't realize that it was Adderall. So I think the answer to your question is most of the users right now don't know, and they think they're buying Adderall. That is what is so concerning to me personally. Again, as somebody that leads DEA's efforts throughout the 6 New England states, I'm concerned. As a parent of 3, I'm concerned. As somebody that's truly invested in the young people of New Hampshire, who's dedicated, all of my time to empowering young people, really since I got back here, I've dedicated my efforts to that. I'm truly concerned. That's why I'm spending so much time trying to get this message out there like this, because I feel that all of you hopefully will be a force multiplier. You all leave here and tell everybody that this is out there. We have a community of people in New Hampshire and a community of people in our country that feel like they're safe from this drug crisis if they're not putting a needle in their arm. We have a community of people in our country and in New Hampshire that especially feel safe if they're just taking a pill. And that's disturbing. And that is what the cartels know, and they're taking advantage of right now.
Definitely. I have a question here. How do they destroy these safely? So I'm assuming that means the pills.
So I think you mean with drug take back is how do we destroy that stuff? But because it is such a massive amount, and I should have mentioned that historically in New Hampshire, when we do that drug take back, it's 4 hours. We usually take in between 12 and 15,000 pounds in New Hampshire, just in New Hampshire, 12 and 15,000 pounds. So DEA contracts with certain facilities. There's a whole procedure for safety purposes that they shut down that facility. This is no questions asked for drug take back. You come, you drop that stuff in, nobody's asking you any questions. We seal up those boxes and we bring it to a place that destroys it, and they do it in a manner that meets all of the safety protocols for our environment, which is very important. I say all the time, and I remind our political leaders that I think New Hampshire is the most beautiful state in the country. We don't want people washing it down into the water stream or just throwing it in the garbage. So we have a way that has been signed off on by the government that it's safe for the environment. It's controlled, and we sit there and actually witness every last box being destroyed until they're gone.
Sure. We do, if you visit Katie's website as well, we have the drug take back locations listed on there in the central New Hampshire region.
Awesome.
And we also actually have a whole bunch of Terra bags. So basically they're bags where you can put the medications or whatever it is in, seal it up, shake it up. It totally deactivates it, and then you can throw it out. So if anyone's interested in that, definitely, get a hold of me. Beyond supporting our police departments to the fullest extent, what can local government and communities do? Example, how can we prevent it entering our community? How can we help support victims and our community members that are addicted?
Well, you guys have some great questions. And it's why I do these, and I'm so proud to be part of it. What you can all do is communicate about this. We have to get the dialogue started. Which is all, even trickier because of COVID right now. Prevention around the country has always sort of been pushed to the back of the room. When the opioid epidemic reached its all-time high, we were worried about not only enforcement, but we're worried about treatment, and rightfully so. But there's only a certain amount of attention and there's only a certain amount of dollars and usually it's prevention that gets pushed to the back of the room. I believe that we have to do better and more prevention and education than ever before in our time. When I was a kid, prevention was stickers and coloring books, and there was no meat to the message. We have to have hard conversations with our young people, younger than ever before. They have to know the truth about what is out there. We can't hold on to the information that we learned today, particularly about these Adderall, and not find a way to convey that message. So we have to get it in our schools, our clubs and our organizations, our sports teams, our faith-based organizations. We have to get the message out everywhere that we possibly can. And the more that all of you do that, the better off that we will all be.
Absolutely. Are similar campaigns going on in other states, like the ones going on in New Hampshire?
New Hampshire does it better than anybody. I mean that, when DEA had DEA 360, New Hampshire completely reinvented what DEA 360 looks like for DEA worldwide now. It's more youth focused than ever before. They learned a lot of the lessons. We did the nation's first ever youth opioid summit in March of 2017, where 8,500 kids came into the Southern New Hampshire University Arena. And we telecast it to about 35,000 other people. I partnered with the Wahlberg Foundation and my very good friend Jim Wahlberg and Mark Wahlberg, who's committed to this. And DEA has now done similar programs throughout the country. We're going to do that again in New Hampshire. It's just a matter now of what it's going to look like. If we're still able to ever meet again and bring a large group together, I would love to have another youth opioid summit and center around not just opioids, but now we're going to talk a lot about methamphetamine and some of these other drugs that challenge us. If we can't do it in person, then we're gonna partner with a television broadcast and we're gonna put something together. And that's my commitment to everybody in New Hampshire.
That's fantastic. And we would love to be involved
Absolutely.
in that, Katie. What over-the-counter brands, what is the product called on the shelf? You know what that's referring to?
I'm gonna guess. We're talking about the pills, I would assume.
Yeah.
So if you simply just Adderall, if you Google Adderall orange pills, that's how I did it the first time. That's exactly what I put into the Google search, and I came up with that exact pill, and you can see exactly what it looks like. The fentanyl laced pills, Xanax, there's a few different brands. Right now, these Melancroft 30 milligrams, the Percocets are very hot right now. And again, I'm committed to it. My word to all of you is I'm only going to come on here and tell you exactly what's going on. And I'm going to tell you what's going on today. Some of it, I can't talk about some of the details. I can't give you the bad guys' names and addresses because a lot of these cases are ongoing right now. It does me no good to hold on to this information and not share it. And historically, we haven't done we're not comfortable doing that. But, I'm taking these images from seizures that were made today, yesterday, and this week, and I'm blocking out things so people can't figure out who we're talking about. But I want you to see the pills that we're seizing right here today in all of our communities. And it's important to note, and this comes up all the time, so I'll answer the question before you ask. It's all four corners of New Hampshire right now. We are working, as far north as Berlin, as far south as Nashua, and everything in between. And we're finding everything that I just explained to you in all four corners of New Hampshire.
Yep. Why fentanyl? Why is it being mixed in with all these different drugs? Is it cost or easier to make, etc.?
So, yeah. Let me answer it in two parts because the question I always get about fentanyl is, why would anybody design a product that's killing off their customer base? So I'm going to answer that question first. The answer is they don't care. They don't care. they don't want to kill everybody. They want to addict everybody. They want you to, they want all of us to be addicted and to continue to pay, and to buy more. But if they kill you, they don't care. They've killed more people than war. They killed 88,000 of us last year. They're completely unaffected by it. They don't care. That's the first part of it. Fentanyl for them was an incredible find. They found a product in fentanyl that they could mass produce in labs and not have to worry about growing heroin and the opium that is how heroin is made. They don't have to worry about any of that anymore. It's much stronger. It's much easier for them to make, cheaper and faster. They can mass produce it. And if you look at, we had heroin, and then we had heroin mixed with fentanyl. Then we had fentanyl mixed with a little bit of heroin. And now all we have here is fentanyl. Heroin has gone away, and that's in terms of what we seize. We don't seize heroin anymore. What the lab has, it's not heroin anymore. And what the medical examiner finds as a result, of people dying, if you go back the last couple of years, you might have one overdose death that might be related to heroin, and that's an anomaly. It's just fentanyl. So it's a business decision by the cartels, and it's a huge windfall for them. It's much stronger.
Are there reduction efforts such as distributing this information to people leaving jails and prisons, syringe exchange programs, and law enforcement-led overdose response follow-up teams or safe station programs?
Yeah, I mean, again, not my particular area of expertise, so I don't want to speak on behalf of what some of those city, state, and local agencies do, but I've been here long enough to know that, yes, all of the above is happening. We have, programs that local law enforcement have where they actually follow up with people that suffer an overdose, and they do a really good job of it. We have safe stations, which I think completely, revamped the way fire stations were being looked at. I think, there was a concept there that they're always open and they could, be a respite center to help find people that may need help getting into recovery. And I think, again, I'm not a recovery expert, but I know that we've done a really good job, particularly here in New Hampshire, of finding more bed space. And it's something that everybody's been committed to. This is a non-political, non-socioeconomic issue that we all have to be concerned about.
Are the court penalties adequate to intimidate the suppliers? I suspect not. So what should happen? Huge rewards for information leading to a bust?
Another good question. We enforce the laws that are put out in front of us, and then it's really up to the court system what they do with it. I think people will argue, both sides of that. We have drug courts here in New Hampshire where we try to find people that maybe are on the lower scale of things that truly need help. And then there's people that have infiltrated this state and infected people with this addiction, led to the death and misery of our family, friends, and neighbors, and caused a lot of harm. I can assure you that what DEA does is we focus on what we call the command and control. We want to find the people that are actually making the decisions and profiting most off of this, and we want to disrupt them. And I can assure you that while I'm sitting here on this Zoom, the brave men and women that work for me are out there, and they're out there all the time, and they're working with our great law enforcement partners, and they're working hard to find a way to make all of our streets safer. People are committed to this.
Absolutely. The violence associated with meth, is it because of the effect the drug has on people, or the fact that we're being inundated with the drug trade?
There's a certain amount of it when you're dealing with that much money that's associated with the product, that there's always going to be weapons and levels of violence. But in this case, the psychology that behind the effects, and again, there's people that are experts, psychologists and medical people that can explain this much better than I can, but it has an effect. There's high levels of paranoia that go along with it. And what we find is that we find people that have guns that are associated with this drug, and high levels of paranoia and guns are a very, very dangerous thing. And that's something that, I'm concerned about, and we're working with all of our first responders to get that message out there. There's also, and again, I encourage you to follow up maybe with, not just treatment people, but some people with the psychology of all this. There's a high level of sexual violence that is associated with people that are using this drug. We take efforts when we go into a home. If ever children are there, we have to make notifications to DCYF, because historically, there's abuse. So we want to make sure that there's some awareness out there with that as well.
Given that most kids in New Hampshire are not yet spending full weeks in school, where do you think they're getting these pills?
Where there's a will, there's a way. There's sadly, people that want to sell these drugs make them available. And it's become such a widespread problem, that you can find it almost anywhere. When you talk, if you talk to people that are willing to be honest about it, especially when you talk about Adderall, just from some of the conversations that I've had as a result of some of these Zooms that we've been doing, people have followed up with me and said they went home and talked to their kids, and, oh yeah, everyone had, you can always get an Adderall, in school. I'm concerned about middle school, I'm concerned about high school, and I'm concerned about college campuses.
Absolutely. Yes, the recording and slides will be available. Just answering that one quickly. Do you know when your next presentation will be?
I have a bunch scheduled. I'm terrible about my schedule, and Tara will tell you, I think she was hounding me to make sure I showed up here today. I also have a very bad habit of saying yes to everything. But I believe in this. I believe that, I need you all to have this information so you can now march forward with it. Katie needs to put together a one-sheeter. We have a one-sheeter that we did on the Adderall pills, which if I haven't sent it to you, Tara, I'll send it to you and you can put it out to everybody. But you need to put something out. We need to get the word out there. And when we're interacting with people and parents and groups and organizations and young people, we need to say, hey, are you aware of this? That's what we need to do. So I don't know when my next presentation is. If you go on DEA Twitter, it'll be up there, I'm sure. And if you have a request, I prefer to do a larger group like this because I think it's the most beneficial.
Definitely. And that is already on the to-do list.
And hopefully that person was asking because it was a good thing and not they want to make sure to avoid it. But I just
no, I definitely think it was a good thing. We are running out of time here. I just scroll through here. A lot of talk, a lot of great conversation going on in this chat box.
If anybody has a question that didn't get answered, if they want something, if you get it to Tara, I promise you I'll do my best to answer it.
Definitely. You should all have my email because I sent a reminder out yesterday. So yeah, let me just, we'll stop there. Thank you so much, John. That was just fantastic. I just want to throw up a quick upcoming events for us. So we have a series coming up specifically for first responders on public safety, mental health, and substances. Breaking down the walls. It's going to be really, really good. Love to get as many first responders signed up for that as we can. Post-acute withdrawal syndrome is coming up in May. It's a follow-up to our Science of Addiction with Dr. Seefeld. And like I said, the slides will be emailed out by the end of the week. It'll be up on our YouTube, so you'll have the link when I send the slides out. And my email's in here, so please contact. I'm sorry, we had about 50 more comments. Maybe not 50 questions, but 50 more comments in that box. So I apologize if we couldn't get to everybody's questions today. But definitely, if
can
you
hang
have
on a
something
little
you
bit
need to
longer,
find out.
Tara. If you need me, I can hang on. If, you know, if people want to stay, if there's more questions, if there's time, I can answer them.
Yeah, we can hang out for a couple of minutes. And if anybody has any pressing questions, you can just verbally ask John. Or if you need to get on to another meeting, have a great afternoon, and thank you all so much for attending. This was a great turnout.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I don't mind hanging on if you have a few more there, or if anybody wants to jump up, I'll be happy to.
We can just hang on until everyone either
Okay.
signs off or asks a question.
I just asked a question about Lawrence. What's being done about the problem with Lawrence?
Yeah, so you know, we spend a lot of time there, and we work with not only the Mass State Police but with Lawrence PD, and you know, it does seem like the Merrimack Valley and Lawrence, Lowell, Haverhill is you know, are truly the sources for New Hampshire. You know, we continue to do the biggest investigations that we can. We just did a very big takedown there. With large amounts of cash seized and drugs, and took out an entire organization. And, you know, we're working really hard. It's not, you know, we don't target cities. We target criminal organizations. If they're in Lawrence, we're going to go after them. If they're in Keene, New Hampshire, we're going to go after them there. You know, so I don't want to, you know, I don't want to say it's Lawrence. But the truth of the matter is we have a lot of investigations going in Lawrence.
Yeah, and tell me, how much smarts do people have to have in order to create what they're creating?
Not a lot.
Oh,
It doesn't take that much. And truthfully, even making the pills, using a pill press, you can almost figure it all out from the internet, and people have figured it out.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, I work for federal technical assistance programs, and we help people all over New England and other places with overdose programs and treatment programs. And I was wondering, is there a good central place you can recommend where I could really access some of this information in hopes of distributing it? I went through the drug set report the minute it came out, you know, and I don't know how many people have the patience for that, but something that like could go to treatment providers in places or programs. Is there anything succinct like that you could recommend?
You know, I don't think there's anything that's truly succinct. I wish there was. But, you know, I do know that if you go on the DEA.gov website, you know, we've done a better job of putting more and more materials up there, more updated materials, and maybe that, you know, will be a step in the right direction for you. We have some outreach people as well that you know, you can contact from that website, and maybe they can help you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay.
I think that's it. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. It was
You're welcome.
fascinating and terrifying at the same time. So
Well, I hope it was beneficial. That's really all.
absolutely. And we'll connect, because
Yeah.
I really like
Yeah, please, whatever.
some of this outreach.
Yeah. And if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me.
I do.
All right. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
John. It was
wonderful
wonderful.
afternoon.
Very informative.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Excellent.